Ambassador Naor Gilon, welcome to CNN News 18. As we speak, pictures of these innocent hostages grab my attention. And we know that now the war in Gaza has entered its third month. We've seen Israel also expand its offensive. There was a brief operational pause during which some hostages were released, but the majority remain with Hamas. How do you assess Israel's position and its goal of wiping out Hamas at the moment?
We are in the midway. I think we did quite well so far in eliminating a lot of the infrastructure. Eliminating Hamas is not we have to eliminate their the ideology of ISIS within them. The jihadist ideology is there, it will stay. So the people who will die, it will not be relevant for them anymore, the ideology. Others, we have to at least eliminate the leadership and the infrastructure. These are the two main things that not to have the capacity there and the leadership in order to execute or threat anyone, either Israel or anyone else in the world. So we are in the middle of the way. We did quite well, but there is still a way to go in order to feel that the mission is accomplished.
It's interesting that you talk about wiping out the ideology, which is why I want to ask you about the challenge that Israel is facing right now, primarily because on one hand you have a barbaric terror organization like Hamas. On the other hand, Israel also has to ensure the safe and secure release of all the remaining hostages. At the same time, keep into mind that there are minimum civilian casualties. All this while keeping its eyes on wiping out Hamas. Is this challenge now adding to the military versus moral dilemma of Israel?
It's not easy, the whole operation. And yesterday or the day before yesterday, we announced 9 soldiers in one big incident there, yes, who were lost because we are trying to do it in a surgical way, not to harm innocent population, to do it in a more calibrated way. It takes toll on us, bigger toll, and also the hostages, the abductees that we have there, the civilians that you mentioned about. I don't know exact number because they were not visited by International Red Cross or anyone, but we count now 137 people that they are, including old people and women and 2 babies.
That's exactly what I was coming to, shed light on the challenges of this surgical approach, considering you're talking about a densely populated Gaza. We know that Hamas is also using civilian population and infrastructure as human shields. They've not spared mosques, they've not spared buildings, apartments, schools, even hospitals.
So this is exactly. So we went into hospitals in a way. For the Shifa hospital, the biggest hospital there, we went without shooting even one bullet there, and we found the tunnel infrastructure under the hospital, which was connected to the hospital, and taking its resources, electricity and other from the hospital, food, whatever they had, they could take directly from the hospital. We found mosques were in the second floor, the top floor of the mosque. You had a training facility and a bomb preparing room, and we had schools with the same ideas. So it's very, very hard not to harm. The big effort not to harm the abductees, the hostages, not to harm the local civilian population. Because if you go from the air and you do something that is bombing the tunnel from the air, first of all, there will be a ripple effect because these tunnels go under buildings, under streets. And if you can hit, and it happened to us in the previous Gaza operation, we blew up a tunnel, and almost 500-600 meters away, a whole street collapsed, imploded down. Yes. Because the tunnel went under the street. Once the tunnel collapsed, the whole street collapsed with it. And we don't know exactly where the tunnels are going. You can see an outlet of the tunnel, but you don't know what is exactly where it's going, under which buildings, under which school, hospital, God forbid, or something like that. So you have to be very, very cautious about how you deal with it.
I want to now shift my attention over to sexual violence that's been perpetrated by Hamas against women on October 7. At a recent UN event in the UN headquarters, there were gory details that were shared by eyewitnesses. It's very unfortunate that UN Women condemned this act nearly 2 months after Hamas perpetrated it on October 7. I see all these faces, majority of them being women and children. Prime Minister Netanyahu has also talked about global indifference towards sexual violence that was perpetrated by Hamas on October 7. I want to know from you, do you think that the global community, especially the United Nations, have glossed over sexual violence against women by Hamas?
Yes. The short answer is yes. What Hamas did on that day, they systematically raped women, group raping, whatever, in front of the families, not only women, also children, also men were sexually abused. Most of them were murdered. So what they did, they shot the women. After they abused them, they shot them. So it's kind of a humiliation. I don't even understand the logic behind it, but anyhow, terrible. We never experienced that. We never, we saw a lot of brutality in the terrorism against Israel, suicide bombers in buses and restaurants and what not in the past. This brutality was really, really, and when women, the eyewitnesses were people who somehow survived and saw it, and not too many, because as I said, most of the victims were raped and then killed. There was the eyewitnesses were not, when they claimed that they saw rape or there were semen remains on bodies and stuff like that, on naked bodies that were found, and body parts which were cut, the breasts of women and stuff like that. The world asked us to prove it was not enough. So, as if the victims cannot speak, and now they are doubted whether Israel is using it as a propaganda, which it's not knowing Israel. For us to speak about these topics is very, very hard. And we were shocked because Israel was always a leader in the world. Israel is a very liberal country. In what came to human rights, women's rights, gay rights, all that, Israel was always in the forefront of the world and fighting in international arena with international organizations, not only UN organizations, it's also relevant UN organizations, but also NGOs. So, they didn't believe, they thought it's propaganda, did not believe the Israeli women or the Israeli witnesses. And this is terrible, really terrible. And it brought people to the thinking that maybe when you rape a Jewish woman, it's okay. So it seems like the world doesn't care. When the rape is somewhere else or something, so the world is shouting. We were also shouting in other places in the world when things happened. And I don't know, I don't want to think what are the motivations behind it, if it's anti-Semitism or anything else, but nothing can justify sexual abuse of people in general. There is no context to that. That's what people try always to put October 7 in a context.
Right.
You have to understand it's a long debate, it's a political, it's a occupation, not occupation. Gaza was not occupied from 2005, but this is not even the case. There is no context there is no reason or logic and no explanation for sexual violence.
I mean, the eyewitness accounts that one reads off on October 7, they are blood-curdling details. It's interesting you talk about propaganda, which is why I want to ask you about Hamas's propaganda, how it is misusing artificial intelligence, how it is misusing social media platforms, because whenever we see a country goes to war, there's a parallel war, and that is of propaganda. Place it into perspective for us when we talk about Hamas's propaganda war.
I will start by saying that if you look at the numbers of Hamas, the only number of casualties in Gaza that you hear are from the Ministry of Health of Hamas in Gaza, which I don't know if they are right or wrong. I have no measure. But what I know about the numbers, that maybe the Israel Defense Forces are the worst forces in the world because they kill only civilians. In all the numbers they give, it's only civilians. They never speak of fighters, terrorists. They would call them freedom fighters, whatever. They speak only of citizens. So it's very, very interesting because just on the first day, we have bodies of something like 1,500 terrorists that we killed on the October 7 when they, inside Israel, on the border with Gaza, all around that. So these are part of the civilians. There are no fighters, and we are fighting people. So either we are unable to kill anyone or someone is not giving the information about dead terrorists. They're calling them civilians in order to have the numbers look bigger and more frightening, I think, of civilian casualties. So this is a very big problem that we are facing there. But this is only one on the fact on the ground. I think that the world is in trouble. We are suffering from this end, but it will come to bite other people in the future. Now, you see it also on our side that a lot of machines are now working traditional like Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera for years is poisoning the minds of many Muslims around the world, not only in the Middle East. And the problem is that they're creating more and more generations of Muslims who are indoctrinated, young people indoctrinated into hatred. And
at the United Nations, we've seen an overwhelming number of votes at the UNGA resolution that was passed calling for a ceasefire and for the immediate release of hostages. How do you assess the latest UNGA resolution, in which India also has, of course, voted in favor of this resolution? What is your assessment?
So, first of all, it's a one-sided resolution. It does not speak about Hamas in the way it should, about how things happened. As Hillary Clinton, I think, put it in the beginning of the thing, better than everyone else. She said, but until October 7, October 6, there was a ceasefire violated by Hamas. So Hamas chose to attack, unprovokedly, like 30 Jewish communities, and that's when hell broke loose. And by the way, second time we had a ceasefire for the exchange or bringing back the abductees, and they violated the agreement also there. So we extended it, yes. And they promised to release all the women and the children, and they didn't. And 10 people at least a day for every day of quiet. They didn't. I think there is a lot of hypocrisy coming out of the world in general. When we speak to people, everyone that is reasonable to speak to understand the need to eliminate groups like Hamas. The risk with Hamas for Israel is very clear, but the risk from groups like Hamas, or the image of success of Hamas, giving back wind to extremists around the world, is there. It's very, very strong. I mean, if there will be the image that a medium-sized organization like Hamas defeated the military that is considered the strongest probably in West Asia and one of the strongest also in the world, most advanced ones in the world, it will give back wind to people who have the ideology among them. The former ISIS, for example, people, or the one indoctrinated by Al Jazeera, living in Europe, living in the West, living in Asia. It will give them back wind, the feeling that there is an opportunity now. The ideology is inside.
True.
But okay, we see that there is opportunity. We are oppressed. And this is very dangerous. So the need for elimination of groups like that is clear. We hear it from everyone. Okay, in
right.
The closed rooms, when we speak to people around the world, they all tell you, finish what you started. Hamas cannot come victor.
True, but how does one maintain that balance? Because as we spoke earlier in the interview, how do you ensure the safe release of the hostages? Is Israel mulling on the possibility of a second ceasefire?
Again, we are ready, and as I said, Hamas are the ones who violated. We are ready for a deal to release all the hostages. This is our target. We don't have a partner for that now. I think that Hamas understand that we are going to eliminate them, the leadership and everything, and for them, holding the hostages is the last resort. So this is their final human shield. They use their own population as human shield. Now they are using also our hostages as human shields, and I think that they are afraid to release them. This is part of the issue. But coming back to the UN again, the countries are supporting Israel's move, but they don't want to be perceived as doing that. So in the UN, when it comes to voting, many of the countries of the world, I think, are putting a different. We want you to finish them, but we don't want to be accountable for the fact that you are doing it. So you do whatever you want, but we will vote against you in the UN. It's okay. Because we are resolute to do what we need to do to protect our people.
No, but is that how you also assess India's stance, considering India is also a country that's been plagued by terrorism?
I will say that India, first of all, the support that we got from India from day one was very strong. I think starting with Prime Minister Modi in the afternoon of the event, tweeting very clearly when I think, we didn't understand even the magnitude at that time of the disaster. Speaking against terrorism and support of Israel, and then it continued in the strength of some international events and another tweets, and So I think it was very clear that the Indian support. Also, in the last vote, there were two amendments trying to put in the question stronger the question of the abductees and the question of who started it. I mean, with Hamas, putting more emphasis on Hamas, and India voted in favor of these two amendments. So at the final game, I also understand the Indian interests that are wider. The importance is the friendship, I think. The understanding that we are together and there is support. I still hold the position that India is supporting Israel very strongly. I'm very thankful for that.
Now I'm going to shift focus to the issue of anti-Semitism. We talk at a time where we've witnessed a massive fallout after testimonies of various presidents of US colleges during that US congressional hearing on anti-Semitism. How do you weigh in on the rhetoric that is now shaping up, which claims that Israel is weaponizing the narrative of anti-Semitism to justify the war in Gaza?
Unfortunately, it's the other way around. Anti-Semitism is growing. It has many faces. People, look, we spoke before about the rapes and the sexual abuse. It comes from the same way. If you heard what you see now, for example, in the US with the ultra-liberals, they are misinformed people. They don't know reality. When you see queer for Palestine or queer for Gaza, you understand that these people, someone equated it for chickens for Kentucky Fried Chicken, because gay people in Gaza cannot survive. Either they are in the closet or they are pushed from a rooftop of a building. Many of them escaped to Israel in order to live freely under open identity. And when you see people who care about environment and are working for technology for environment in the world, in the Middle East, is Israel more than anyone else. But then you see that all the environmentalists automatically they think that this is the right direction to go with the Palestinians. So
and you know why I talk about the global sentiment? Because I want to quote what the US president said at the Hanukkah reception. He said, "I also recognize you're hurting from the silence and the fear and for your safety because of a surge in anti-Semitism in the United States of America and around the world. It's sickening. We see it across our communities and schools and colleges and social media. They surface painful scars from millennia of hate to genocide of the Jewish people."
So Joe Biden define themselves as a Zionist, non-Jew Zionist or something like that. And he is. He understands Israel. He loves Israel. And what happened when I saw the testimonies as a Jew, Jews are considered the privileged people in the US. They're well off. At the end of the day, these are people who came in the turn of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century to the US as immigrants, penniless, and we're very strong. You see the business world in the US. Jews are about 2% of the population of the US. And they are very successful because they are achieving people like Indians there. You will see them in business. You will see in academia. Harvard University, a few presidents were Jewish, and yes, one of the three ladies, MIT, is a Jewish lady. But I saw these people trying to put the fear of Jewish students or the attacks on Jewish students in a context, or at least if you speak and you don't execute, or different, very strange. If there is anti-Semitism, if a Jew, American Jew, who is the third, fourth, fifth generation in the US, cannot study in an Ivy League institution freely and feel that he is safe and protected by his own country and university, it's terrible. This is anti-Semitism. To say that we are utilizing anti-Semitism, no. There is anti-Semitism that has different faces. Some of it is saying free from the river to the sea. When people chant, by the way, from the river to the sea, it's from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, meaning that it's not about two-state solution or any compromise, no Jews. The whole thing that is Israel today will become Palestine. That's it. That's their eyes. And also a lot of fake news about Israel grabbed lands from Palestine before 48. There was never a Palestinian state. There is this mix that they built. There was a mandate by the British until between two world wars. True. Palestine, the flag was the Star of David. Just to understand that the Jews were majority already there. And it's very, a lot of fake news, as if
will be given forward in future. In fact, now Lalit Jha was the last person who was arrested in this entire matter, and in fact now he has also been sent to the police custody for 7 days. Apart from him, the 4 main other accused are also being sent to the jail, sent to the police custody. And in fact, as of now, what we are also understanding is that now, since this matter has gone to the courts, and in fact now the police is investigating this matter. Now, the counsel of the police had maintained that they needed more time, in fact, to interrogate these people, because they wanted them to take to different places to actually corroborate this entire investigation and to actually get a larger sense of this investigation. Because as of now, what the police wants is to actually increase the length of this entire investigation, because there are multiple angles which are being probed into. And in fact, yesterday also we broke that how the scope of this entire probe is going to be widened, because we have to understand that till now we are saying that certain extremist leftist ideology were driving them to do something like this. But we have to also understand that the sources are maintaining that it's not just the ideology, but because it's not just the ideology, because what they have done is something very heinous, going inside the parliament, breaching the protocol. So as of now...
All right, Yash, I'll thank you for all those details. We'll keep coming back to this story as the day progresses. But before we leave, we'll take a look at some of the reactions that we are getting on this report.
So, first of all, since Lalit Jha's role has been defined as somebody who had destroyed evidence, has an evidence tampering charge also been pushed by the Delhi police?
They have just came with this remand application. Now they want to interrogate the matter, right? कहाँ इन्होंने मोबाइल छुपाया है, या either he has destroyed the mobile or he has just kept the mobile somewhere, तो वो interrogate करना है.
So, with regards to him being called a mastermind, the Delhi police was calling him a mastermind. What was the role that was defined to him? If you could elaborate on that.
The role is basically एक तो शायद ललित के घर पे सारा कुछ ये अभी तक जितना भी हुआ है, मीटिंग्स हुई है, या फिर they in August 23 they were in some hotel for 4 days. तो वहीं से ये कॉन्स्पिरेसी स्टार्ट हुई है, या फिर वहाँ से ये इस पर्टिकुलर इंसिडेंट को पंप किया गया है. वो दैट्स अ पार्ट ऑफ अगेन इंटरोगेशन है, उसमें देखते हैं क्या लेकर आते हैं ये. आज एज फार एज ललित का जो आज का रिमांड एप्लीकेशन वो कंसर्न था, वो तो 15 डेज का था, एंड दे हैव बीन गिवन, द कोर्ट हैज गिवन 7 डेज.
व्हाट वाज द ग्राउंड for seeking that particular 15-day remand, because they're seeking a lot, because though there is a 30-day period given, but it's still 15 days is a pretty long period.
तो listen, इसमें क्या है, देखिए,
Since you mentioned the two-state solution, I want to ask you, do you reckon that moderate Arab states like the UAE and the Saudi Arabia, a country that you were very close to clinching a historic peace deal with, can play a significant role in shaping up a plan for a two-state solution?
I think that we can do things with the Gulf countries before we can achieve the two-state solution. For a two-state solution, you need to have a very strong partner on the Palestinian side. I'm not sure we have it now, and I'm not sure that the scarred Israelis now, after they saw that from 2005 we left Gaza, and the outcome, less than 20 years later, is a terror state. All of the years they shot at Israel, but now you see the level of atrocities. I'm not sure that it's helping build trust towards the future, having a two-state solution in the near future without having a very strong partner pro-peace on the other side. I don't think that we have today this partner. I hope in the future we will have the partner, that when there will be a generational change in the Palestinian Authority, some new generation leader who really believes in peace, who does not pay terrorists pay to slay. They pay terrorists according to the crimes they did or the amount of years they're compensated. While so all that we need to have a different, and the textbooks will not be inciting against Israel, and the math questions will not include if terrorists killed 4 Jews and 5 survived. And, this shouldn't be the state of mind. We are not there yet, but I believe we can go with the Gulf countries even earlier and faster, The interests are there.
I'd like to end with a quotation of Iraq's former Prime Minister, Haider al-Abadi. He said this during the victory speech when ISIS was defeated. He said that we've succeeded in defeating terrorism. We will succeed in reconstruction. Taking a cue from what he said during that victory speech, which also had a lot to do with the joint operation forces as well. What is endgame Gaza?
It's clear that Israel doesn't want to reconquer Gaza. For me and for all Israelis, I think. We left Gaza in 2005 in order not to return. Our Prime Minister then, Ariel Sharon, the late Prime Minister, said that he thinks that Gaza can become Singapore. Unfortunately, Gaza became Gaza and not Singapore or Hamastan or whatever name you give it. I think that we have a second chance to do it better. We will need international, they cannot see Israelis ruling them. I don't think we want to rule them. Security-wise, we'll have to be there until there is some stability, but the civilian life has to be under some kind of a different international umbrella or whatever combination we find. And I hope that the second chance they get, if you see polls now in Gaza, you see that at least a third of the population are very much against the October 7 attack or the aftermath of that. Okay, maybe the attack they liked in the principle, but when they saw the consequences of that, so I think that there is hope. I hope that we can find the good people to rebuild Gaza.
And the civilian population that
make
can
it
see
Singapore
through
rather
the reality of Hamas, and that it is not Hamas which is for peace, but Israel.
I hope we will find at the end of this process Singapore, as our Prime Minister hoped, and not Hamastan again, as the reality proved.
Amen to that. Ambassador Gilon, it was a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for giving us your precious time here at CNN News 18. Thank you.